engine roared into the silent night, and the darkness enveloped the road like a heavy shroud. The music from the festival still echoed in my mind, but the feeling of euphoria quickly gave way to growing unease. Emily, beside me, was absent-mindedly fiddling with the colorful bracelets we got, her slender fingers sliding over the threads. That's when I noticed the headlights behind us. At first, I didn't pay much attention. Empty roads in the middle of nowhere often meant occasional travel companions. But as we drove on, something began to bother me. That car wasn't keeping a safe distance. It was getting too close, its headlights blinding me through the rearview mirror. "Hey, Emily, did you see that car?" I asked, trying not to sound alarmed. She turned, peering through the rear window. "Yes, it's really close." "That's strange," she replied, worry clear in her voice. I could feel a knot forming in my stomach. I sped up a bit, trying to create some distance, but the old car, with its faded paint and dented bumpers, did the same. When I slowed down, it slowed down too. My heart started to race, and a thin layer of sweat covered my forehead. "Mark, what's happening?" Emily asked, her voice now trembling. I looked at her, trying to stay calm, but the fear was already setting in. "I don't know, but we need to get off this road. This doesn't look good." I sped up again, this time with more force. The engine groaned, and the car shot down the road. But the pursuer didn't give up. It sped up as well, keeping the same distance, its headlights shining like malevolent eyes in the darkness. Every move I made was mirrored by it, and the road seemed to close in around us, with no way out, no hope. Emily began to frantically search for her phone in her bag, but there was no signal. "Damn it, Mark, there's no signal here." The despair in her voice only increased my panic. We were completely isolated, trapped in this deadly dance with a stranger. Suddenly, a violent impact threw us forward. The car had rammed into our rear with force, making Emily scream. I gripped the steering wheel tightly, trying to maintain control, but the fear was eroding my courage. The pursuer wasn't just following us, he was hunting us. "Emily, you need to find something. Anything we can use." My voice came out higher than I intended, betraying my terror. She began rummaging through the glove compartment, her hands trembling. Every second felt like an eternity. The battered car behind us, the sound of engines roaring, the growing fear in our hearts. The road was deserted, no houses, no signs of life. We were alone, at the mercy of a maniac. Finally, I saw a turnoff to the right, a dirt road. Without thinking twice, I sharply turned the wheel, entering the road with the car skidding on the dust and gravel. The pursuer hesitated for a second, and I took the opportunity to gain some distance. But I knew this was just the beginning. The real fight for survival was just starting. The car shook violently on the dirt road, and the dust we kicked up obscured our vision. Emily held onto the dashboard, her eyes wide with fear. The rearview mirror showed the pursuer catching up with us again, his battered car relentless, like an unyielding predator. "Damn it, he's still coming!" I yelled, feeling the desperation tighten in my chest. I tried to keep control, but the uneven road made the car skid at every turn. "Mark, what are we going to do?" Emily asked, her voice trembling and full of panic. I wanted to have an answer, a magic solution to get us out of there, but I was just as terrified as she was. The pursuer caught up and rammed into the back of our car again. The impact threw us forward, and I heard Emily moan in pain as her head hit the dashboard. The terror turned into impotent rage. Who the hell was this lunatic? And why was he chasing us? "Hold on tight, Emily. We're going to try to lose him." I gripped the wheel and began making sharp maneuvers, swerving the car from side to side in an attempt to confuse the pursuer. But he stayed on us, getting more aggressive, slamming his car into ours with increasing violence. The road seemed endless, a labyrinth of dust and shadows. My heart was beating so fast I could hear it in my ears, and my mind was racing, trying to think of a way out. Every attempt to speed up was met with another hit, every turn taken with the pursuer right on our tail. "Look, Mark! There's a fork in the road up ahead." Emily pointed to a split in the road, hope mixed with fear in her voice. This was our chance. "I'm taking the left. Hold on tight." I sharply turned the wheel, the car skidding and kicking up a cloud of dust. The pursuer hesitated for a second, and I took advantage to gain some distance. But he soon resumed the chase, more determined than ever. The sense of isolation was overwhelming. We were in the middle of nowhere, no cell signal, no houses in sight. Just us and our relentless hunter. Every time he rammed our car, the panic turned into sheer terror. I couldn't think straight, only react. "There's a farm up ahead. Turn, quickly." Emily pointed to a narrow path leading to a solitary building on the horizon. It was our last hope. I turned the car again, the dust swallowing us as we moved away from the main road. The battered car tried to follow, but the dust and potholes slowed it down a bit. "Mark, maybe we can lose him," Emily said, trying to sound optimistic. But I knew he was still behind us and could catch up at any moment. Finally, we reached the farm. I stopped the car abruptly in the yard, and we both ran towards the house, frantically banging on the door. An old man opened, his eyes widening in surprise at our desperate state. "Please, help us. Someone's chasing us," I shouted, feeling tears of panic start to fall. The man let us in quickly, locking the door behind us. Inside the house, the muffled sound of engines outside was even more terrifying. The pursuer had stopped at the entrance, his headlights piercing the darkness. The man grabbed the phone and called the police, his calm voice contrasting with our panic. Minutes passed, feeling like hours. The pursuer didn't move, just waited. Then, finally, we heard police sirens. The relief was so intense I almost collapsed to the floor. We were safe, at least for now. The red and blue lights of the sirens illuminated the darkness, casting a sinister play of shadows around us. Emily clung to me, and I felt her body trembling. The old man opened the door, allowing the police to enter. They were armed and serious, ready for anything. "Stay here," one of the officers ordered, going out to confront the pursuer. The battered car was still there, parked at the farm's entrance. My mind raced with 1,000 thoughts. Who was that man? Why was he chasing us? What did he want? The tension was unbearable. The officers approached the car cautiously, their guns pointed. Emily and I stayed near the window, watching every move, fear still pulsing in our veins. "Get out of the car with your hands up," one of the officers ordered. There was a moment of silence, an instant where everything seemed to freeze. Then, the car door opened slowly, and a shadowy figure emerged. It was a middle-aged man, wearing tattered clothes and with a vacant look that chilled my blood. He raised his hands, but there was something deeply wrong in his expression. The officers approached, still on alert. Suddenly, one of the officers shouted, "Watch out!" The man pulled a gun from his jacket pocket and, in the blink of an eye, opened fire. The sound of gunshots echoed through the night, and chaos erupted. The officers returned fire, and the farm turned into a battleground. I pulled Emily to the floor, shielding her with my body as bullets whizzed around us. The shootout lasted only a few seconds, but felt like an eternity. When it finally stopped, a deadly silence fell over the place. I slowly raised my head, trying to understand what had happened. The pursuer was lying on the ground, his lifeless body illuminated by the lights of the patrol cars. The officers were checking the perimeter, ensuring the threat was neutralized. I helped Emily up, our bodies still trembling with adrenaline. "It's all right now." "You're safe," said one of the officers, but his words felt hollow. The terror still hung in the air, and I knew nothing would ever be the same. We were escorted to one of the patrol cars, where they offered us water and asked us questions. I answered mechanically, my mind still stuck on the image of that man and the horror he had caused us. Emily was in shock, her eyes fixed on a distant point. The officers informed us that the man was a fugitive, wanted for a series of violent crimes. He had escaped from a psychiatric institution months earlier and had been on the loose ever since. The relief of knowing he was dead couldn't erase the fear I felt. Finally, we were released to return to our car, still parked at the farm. The drive home felt like an endless nightmare, every shadow on the road making us jump. When we finally arrived, the sun was starting to rise, but the light brought no comfort. We entered the house in silence, still stunned. Emily went straight to the shower, and I stayed in the living room, looking out the window. The world seemed different now, darker, more threatening. The sound of running water was the only thing breaking the silence. Suddenly, a noise at the door made my heart jump. I turned slowly, the terror returning in full force. I walked to the door, each step heavy with the fear that something was still wrong. When I opened the door, I found an envelope on the ground. There was no sender, just my name written in shaky handwriting. I picked it up with trembling hands and went back inside, feeling a chill down my spine. I opened the envelope carefully. Inside, there was a photo of me and Emily, taken during the festival. On the back, a message written in blood. "This is just the beginning."